Think you know everything about Mike Rowe's beloved Discovery Channel series? Think again. From a host who joined an opera company just to get his union card to segments deemed too gross, even for a show about dirty jobs, the behind-the-scenes secrets of this blue-collar favorite are stranger than any septic tank Mike ever crawled through. Get ready to discover the bizarre casting gambles, dangerous filming mishaps, and unexpected controversies that made dirty jobs a television phenomenon. Fact 1. Opera singer to union card scam. Mike Rowe's path to television stardom began with what he freely admits was essentially an elaborate scam to get his Screen Actors Guild card. Back in the 1980s, breaking into television required union membership, but getting into the union required already having a classic catch-22 situation that left many aspiring performers stuck on the outside looking in. Rowe discovered a clever workaround when he learned that members of the American Guild of Musical Artists could more easily join other entertainment unions like SAG and AFTRA. The quickest route to AGMA membership? Joining an opera company. So in 1984, with zero musical training and purely mercenary motives, Rowe decided to crash an audition at the Baltimore Opera Company. He taught himself exactly one aria, the Cote aria, from Puccini's La Bohème, by listening to it repeatedly and singing it back to himself until he had it memorized. Rowe has joked that he specifically chose the shortest aria he could find, figuring he could fake his way through just enough to get rejected gracefully and move on to his real goal of getting that union card. But here's where the plan went sideways in the best possible way. When Rowe auditioned, the opera company discovered he actually had a naturally robust baritone voice. Not only did they accept him into the ensemble, but he ended up staying with the Baltimore Opera for 7 full years, performing alongside classically trained singers while secretly plotting his television career. Rowe has admitted that his initial motivation was partly to meet women, since he figured opera companies would be full of attractive singers. But as it turned out, the music itself grew on him, and what started as a calculated scheme to game the union system became a legitimate part of his artistic development that would later serve him well in his television career. Fact 2. QVC fired him 3 times. Before Mike Rowe became the host of Dirty Jobs, he had one of the most unusual careers in television shopping history, working as a host for QVC, where he was fired and rehired so many times that it became a running joke. His relationship with the home shopping network was tumultuous from the very beginning, marked by his inability to resist making fun of both the products he was supposed to be selling and the customers who called in to buy them. Rowe landed the QVC job in 1990, after betting a friend $100 that he could ace his audition for the home shopping channel. Instead of just advancing to the next round of selections, QVC hired him immediately and put him on the overnight shift, where he was supposed to sell everything from jewelry to kitchen gadgets to viewers watching in the middle of the night. Rather than playing it safe with standard sales pitches, Rowe treated his QVC shifts like his own personal late-night talk show. He would make fun of the products he was selling, crack jokes about callers, and generally turn what was supposed to be straightforward product demonstrations into comedy routines that entertained viewers but didn't necessarily move merchandise. This approach led to his first firing, but QVC management apparently recognized that his unconventional style was generating viewer interest and phone calls, so they brought him back. The cycle repeated itself 2 more times. Rowe would push the boundaries of acceptable QVC behavior, get fired for his irreverent approach, and then get rehired when ratings and viewer response indicated that people enjoyed his off-script commentary. The pattern continued until 1993, when Rowe finally decided to leave QVC of his own accord rather than wait for a 4th firing. His experience at the shopping network taught him valuable lessons about live television, thinking on his feet, and connecting with audience skills that would prove essential when he later created and hosted Dirty Jobs. Fact 3. Comedy Central's brutal rejection. Before Dirty Jobs became a hit on Discovery Channel, Mike Rowe spent years shopping the concept around to various networks, collecting rejection letters that ranged from polite disinterest to outright dismissal. But none of those rejections were quite as memorable or as perfectly worded as the one he received from Comedy Central. The show concept had grown out of a local San Francisco segment called Somebody's Gotta Do It that Rowe had been doing on Evening Magazine. After completing a particularly graphic piece about cow artificial insemination, he was flooded with viewer mail expressing everything from shock and horror to fascination and wonder. Realizing he might have stumbled onto something bigger, Rowe compiled footage from these segments and started pitching an expanded version to networks across the country. When he sent his tape to Comedy Central, the network's response was both swift and brutally honest. In what has become television legend, Comedy Central replied with a rejection letter stating, "At this time, our fall schedule does not allow for a talk show that takes place inside a septic tank." The line perfectly captured both the literal and metaphorical nature of what Rowe was proposing: a show that would literally take viewers into sewers, septic systems, and other unglamorous places, while also diving deep into the lives of workers most people preferred not to think about. What makes this rejection particularly ironic is how accurately Comedy Central had identified exactly what the show would become, even while dismissing it. They weren't wrong about the septic tank part. Rowe would indeed spend considerable time in actual septic tanks once the show finally found a home. But Comedy Central failed to see that audiences might actually want to watch someone crawling through sewage if it meant honoring the people who do that work every day. Fact 4. The too gross for Discovery. Even a show called Dirty Jobs had its limits, and one segment proved so revolting that Discovery Channel executives decided it crossed the line into unwatchable territory. The episode in question featured roadkill taxidermist Stephen Patternight, and it remains one of the most infamous pieces of footage in the show's history, despite never making it to air. The segment was filmed in 2003, during the early days of the series, when producers were still figuring out exactly how far they could push the boundaries of good taste. Patternight specialized in turning roadkill into art pieces, a legitimate profession that involves collecting freshly killed animals from highways and roadsides, then skinning and preserving them through traditional taxidermy methods. The footage shows Rowe working alongside Patternight as they gather and process dead raccoons that had been struck by vehicles. The process involved detailed skinning procedures, and handling of decomposing animal remains in ways that apparently made even seasoned television executives squeamish. According to reports, the segment contained graphic imagery of animal processing that went beyond what Discovery Channel felt comfortable broadcasting to their general audience. After the network made the decision to shelve the episode permanently, Patternight took matters into his own hands. He obtained a copy of the footage and uploaded it to his personal website and later to YouTube, giving it the cheeky title, Too Gross for Discovery. The title became something of a badge of honor for Patternight, who saw it as proof that his work was authentically challenging rather than sanitized for television. The segment remains available online for those curious enough to seek it out, serving as a fascinating glimpse into content that was deemed too extreme even for a show that regularly featured Mike Rowe wading through sewage and handling various forms of animal waste. Fact 5. Faith No More theme song controversy. In early 2007, longtime fans of Dirty Jobs noticed something was seriously wrong when they tuned in for their weekly dose of Mike Rowe getting dirty. The iconic opening theme song that had defined the show since its beginning had mysteriously vanished, replaced by what can only be described as generic elevator music that completely failed to capture the show's blue-collar spirit. The original theme song was Faith No More's We Care a Lot, a 1980s alternative rock track that contained the perfect lyric for the show. Oh, it's a dirty job, but someone's gotta do it. The song had become so closely associated with the series that its driving guitar riffs would send fans running to their televisions whenever they heard it playing. The match between song and show seemed so natural that many viewers assumed it had been written specifically for Dirty Jobs. But behind the scenes, a legal nightmare was unfolding over music licensing rights. According to Mike Rowe himself, the rights to We Care a Lot were either not renewed on time or had never been properly acquired in the first place. Discovery Channel found itself in the awkward position of having built a show's identity around a song they couldn't legally use, forcing them to make emergency changes to avoid potential lawsuits. The network's solution was drastic and immediately noticeable. Not only did new episodes feature the bland replacement theme, but older episodes that had already aired were actually re-edited to remove Faith No More's music from their openings. This meant that even reruns lost the musical identity that fans had come to love. Fortunately, the controversy was resolved by late 2007, and We Care a Lot returned as the show's theme song starting with the June 26th episode. The original song was also restored to DVD releases of earlier episodes, ensuring that the show's musical legacy remained intact for future viewers. Fact 6. Cameraman vs. Monkey Attack. While Mike Rowe usually took the brunt of whatever dangers came with filming dirty jobs, one of the show's most memorable injuries actually happened to someone behind the camera. Chris Whiteneck, who operated Camera B for the series, became the victim of an unprovoked attack by a vervet monkey named Patty during filming at a monkey sanctuary in South Africa. The incident occurred after the crew had finished shooting their segment and were packing up their equipment. Whiteneck was going about his normal routine of securing camera gear when Patty, apparently agitated by the day's filming activities, decided to make his displeasure known in the most direct way possible. The monkey launched himself at the unsuspecting cameraman and sank his teeth deep into Whiteneck's leg, holding on long enough to cause significant damage. What made this attack particularly shocking was how suddenly it happened. Moment, Whiteneck was calmly handling his equipment, and the next he was dealing with a furious primate attached to his leg. The bite was severe enough to require medical attention and left Whiteneck with a permanent scar that serves as a lasting reminder of his encounter with South African wildlife. True to the show's philosophy of capturing authentic moments, the attack itself was caught on camera and actually made it into the final edit that aired on television. Mike Rowe and the production team agreed that including the footage was essential because it showed viewers the real risks and unpredictable nature of the jobs they were documenting. The injury became something of a badge of honor for Whiteneck, and Mike Rowe even presented him with a commemorative banana as a humorous memento of the incident. To this day, fans who meet Whiteneck in person inevitably ask to see his monkey bite scar, making it one of the most famous war wounds in reality television history. Fact 7. Mike's Day Off never aired. In 2006, the Dirty Jobs production team decided to experiment with a role reversal episode that would give Mike Rowe a break from getting dirty while putting the people behind the camera into the spotlight. The resulting episode, titled Mike's Day Off, became one of the most unusual pieces of content the show ever produced and one that American television audiences were never allowed to see. The concept was simple but brilliant. While Mike Rowe took a much-needed visit to his doctor for a routine checkup, producers Craig Piligian and Eddie Barbini would step out from behind their usual roles and actually attempt two different dirty jobs themselves. This gave viewers a rare glimpse into what it was like for regular people to tackle the challenging work that Rowe made look manageable week after week. The episode was completed and ready for broadcast, but Discovery Channel made the unusual decision to pull it from the regular television schedule in the United States. Instead of airing during the show's normal time slot, Mike's Day Off was relegated to DVD-only status, where it was bundled together with another episode called Skull Cleaner as an exclusive release. While the episode was banned from American television, international audiences weren't completely shut out. The episode did air in some Discovery Channel feeds in Southeast Asia and Australia, and it was also broadcast on Discovery Channel Canada before finally making its way to American television on March 3, 2009, nearly 3 years after it was originally produced. The episode was also made available as a downloadable purchase on iTunes, giving American fans who knew about its existence a way to see what they had been missing. The long delay and limited availability only added to the episode's mystique, making it something of a holy grail for dedicated Dirty Jobs collectors. Fact 8. Mob-connected rendering plants. Mike Rowe had his sights set on filming at a rendering facility, where discarded animal parts are processed and turned into various products like pet food, fertilizer, and industrial materials. It seemed like the perfect dirty job for the show-messy, smelly, and completely essential work that most people never think about. But when the production team started researching potential locations, they stumbled into a world they hadn't expected to encounter. Rendering facilities, as Rowe discovered, weren't just optically horrific places filled with decomposing animal remains. Many of them had connections to organized crime that went back decades. The mob's involvement in waste management and rendering operations was an open secret in certain industries, but it was news to the Dirty Jobs crew, who were simply looking for an interesting workplace to feature. During a Reddit Ask Me Anything session, Rowe explained that aside from the obvious visual challenges of filming in a rendering plant, there was another concern he hadn't initially considered. That concern, as he put it, could be spelled out with the letters M-O-B. The production team realized they were potentially walking into a situation that could put both the crew and the show in danger if they chose the wrong facility. The revelation forced the producers to be much more careful about their location scouting process. They couldn't just show up at any rendering plant and expect to film without complications. Instead, they had to thoroughly investigate the ownership and operational structure of potential locations to ensure they weren't inadvertently getting involved with criminal enterprises. Eventually, the team did manage to find a rendering facility that wasn't connected to organized crime, and they were able to film their segment safely. But the experience served as a reminder that even in the world of legitimate dirty jobs, there were sometimes darker undercurrents that the show's producers had to navigate carefully. Fact 9. Safety Third, Philosophy Scandal. Mike Rowe ignited a firestorm of controversy in the workplace safety community when he began promoting his Safety Third philosophy, directly challenging the standard industry motto of Safety First that had been drilled into workers for decades. What started as Rowe's personal observation about workplace priorities turned into a full-blown debate that attracted attention from OSHA officials, safety professionals, and labor organizations across the country. The controversy began when Rowe noticed that after several seasons of accident-free filming, his crew was suddenly experiencing a string of injuries during shoots. Despite endless safety briefings and mandatory safety protocols, the team was becoming complacent and careless. Rowe realized that the constant emphasis on safety first might actually be creating a false sense of security that made people less aware of real dangers. Rowe's argument was that safety is never actually first in any business operation. Getting the job done and making money always take precedence, with safety being an important but secondary consideration. He pointed out that if safety were truly first, crab fishermen wouldn't go out in dangerous storms, construction workers wouldn't build skyscrapers, and window washers wouldn't climb tall buildings. The work gets done because it has to be done, and safety measures are put in place to minimize risk while still accomplishing the task. The backlash was swift and intense. OSHA officials were reportedly furious with Rowe's message, and he joked that he was permanently removed from their Christmas card list. Safety professionals accused him of being reckless and promoting dangerous attitudes among workers. The controversy grew so heated that Rowe produced an entire special episode called Safety Third in 2009, where he used examples from his dirty jobs experiences to defend his position and explain that being in compliance with safety regulations wasn't the same thing as being out of danger. Fact 10. Crime Scene Cleanup Rejection. Despite Mike Rowe's willingness to tackle some of the most disgusting and challenging jobs imaginable, there was one type of work that he refused to feature on Dirty Jobs: crime scene cleanup. When approached about filming with teams that specialize in cleaning up after violent crimes, accidents, and traumatic events, Rowe made the rare decision to turn down what would have been undeniably dirty work. Crime scene cleanup is a legitimate and necessary profession that involves removing blood, bodily fluids, and other biological materials from locations where deaths or serious injuries have occurred. These specialized teams work with families, businesses, and law enforcement to restore spaces to safe, habitable conditions after traumatic events. The work requires extensive training in biohazard handling, uses industrial-grade cleaning equipment, and often involves dealing with emotionally charged situations. Rowe explained his decision to pass on this particular job during a 2007 interview, stating that crime scene cleanup was too heavy for the tone of the show. He recognized that while it was certainly a great example of dirty work, the subject matter crossed a line that would fundamentally change the show's character. The work involved cleaning up after real human tragedies, and Rowe felt it would be impossible to approach such sensitive material with the lighthearted tone that made dirty jobs appealing to viewers. In his own words, Rowe said the work was too grisly to take lightly, and we aspire to be a lighthearted show. He gave a specific example of why the job was unsuitable, mentioning that cleaning up after a body that had been left in a trunk for 3 days in a Louisiana swamp was simply too disturbing and emotionally heavy for the show's format. This decision demonstrated that even a show built around celebrating difficult and unpleasant work had ethical boundaries about what kinds of human experiences were appropriate to turn into entertainment. Fact 11. Eyebrows burned off filming. Mike Rowe's first major injury on Dirty Jobs happened during the very first season and served as a harsh introduction to just how dangerous some of these jobs could be. While working as a blacksmith apprentice, Rowe suffered what could have been a career-ending accident that left him temporarily disfigured and nearly blind. The incident occurred when Rowe was trying to get a dramatic shot near a blast furnace, positioning himself so that his eyes would be visible to the camera while standing on the opposite side of the intense heat source. As he explained to Entertainment Weekly, he wanted to create a compelling visual moment that would show both his face and the furnace flames in the same frame, so he carefully positioned himself and then flicked the switch to ignite the furnace. What Rowe hadn't anticipated was that gas had been accumulating in the furnace chamber while it was off. When he activated the ignition, instead of the controlled flame he expected, a massive fireball erupted from the furnace opening. The explosion of flames shot out with tremendous force, wrapped completely around his head, and subjected him to temperatures hot enough to cause immediate and severe burns. The blast furnace fire burned off both of his eyebrows completely and generated enough heat to actually fuse his contact lenses to his eyeballs. After the filming was over, Rowe had to carefully remove pieces of melted contact lens material from his eyes, a process that was both painful and potentially dangerous to his vision. The extreme heat had essentially welded the plastic lenses to his corneas, creating a medical situation that required delicate handling. Looking back on the incident, Rowe has said it was miraculous that his injuries weren't far more severe, considering the intensity of the heat and flames that engulfed his head. The accident became one of many reminders that the jobs featured on the show involved real risks that could cause serious harm. Fact 12. Originally considered for Daily Show, before Jon Stewart became the legendary host of The Daily Show, Mike Rowe was actually being seriously considered for the position, demonstrating that his career could have taken a completely different path into political satire rather than dirty work. This surprising fact reveals how Rowe's sharp wit and commentary skills had caught the attention of Comedy Central executives long before he became known for crawling through sewers and handling animal waste. The Daily Show was looking for a new host after Craig Kilborn left the program in 1998, and the network was considering several candidates who could bring intelligence, humor, and the ability to deliver biting political commentary to the late-night audience. Rowe's background in hosting, his quick wit, and his ability to connect with everyday Americans made him an attractive option for a show that was trying to find its voice in the world of political entertainment. What made Rowe particularly appealing to the network was his skill at political commentary combined with his everyman appeal. He had demonstrated an ability to discuss complex issues in ways that regular viewers could understand and relate to, while also maintaining the kind of sharp, irreverent tone that The Daily Show was known for. His experience in various hosting roles had shown that he could handle live television, think quickly on his feet, and deliver both scripted and improvised material effectively. According to reports, Comedy Central actually contacted Rowe about the position before they reached out to Jon Stewart, making him one of the first serious candidates they considered for the role. The fact that he was approached so early in their search process suggests that network executives saw real potential in his ability to handle the show's unique blend of news and comedy that would later make The Daily Show a cultural phenomenon under Stewart's leadership. Fact 13. Body Farm Episode Too Disturbing. Among the segments that Dirty Jobs filmed but never aired was one of the most scientifically important yet visually disturbing jobs imaginable. Working at a body farm where human decomposition is studied for forensic research. Mike Rowe mentioned this banned episode during an interview on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, revealing that even a show known for pushing boundaries had encountered material too intense for television audiences. Body farms are legitimate scientific research facilities where donated human bodies are placed in various outdoor conditions to study the decomposition process. These facilities, officially known as forensic anthropology research stations, provide crucial data that helps law enforcement determine time of death in criminal investigations and disaster victim identification. The work involves monitoring, documenting, and collecting data from bodies in different stages of decay under controlled scientific conditions. The researchers and staff who work at these facilities perform genuinely important scientific work that advances our understanding of forensic science and helps solve crimes. Their job involves careful observation, data collection, and maintenance of the research site while treating the donated bodies with appropriate scientific respect. It would have been exactly the kind of essential but overlooked work that Dirty Jobs typically celebrated. However, the visual reality of filming at such a location proved too much, even for a show that regularly featured Mike Rowe handling sewage, animal waste, and decomposing organic matter. The footage apparently contained imagery of human remains in various stages of decomposition that Discovery Channel executives determined would be too disturbing and potentially traumatic for general television audiences. Rowe has described this as one of several segments that the show chose not to air because they crossed the line from merely gross or unpleasant into genuinely disturbing territory. The Body Farm episode joined other banned content in the show's vault of footage that was deemed too intense for broadcast television. Fact 14. Every U.S. state conquered. One of the most remarkable achievements of Dirty Jobs happened completely by accident, without any deliberate planning or effort from the production team. Over the course of the show's run, Mike Rowe and his crew managed to film Dirty Jobs in all 50 United States, a feat that only became apparent to them after they had already accomplished it. The show's production philosophy was never about checking locations off a list or trying to achieve comprehensive geographic coverage. Instead, the crew followed wherever interesting dirty jobs could be found, responding to viewer submissions and producer research without regard to creating a balanced representation across state lines. Their focus was always on finding the most compelling work and the most dedicated workers, regardless of where those jobs happened to be located. This organic approach to location selection made the eventual realization that they had covered every state all the more surprising. The production team wasn't keeping track of which states they had visited or making any conscious effort to fill in geographic gaps. They were simply following the work wherever it led them, from Alaska's harsh wilderness to Hawaii's tropical farms, from Maine's rocky coastlines to California's agricultural valleys. The accidental nature of this achievement perfectly captured the spirit of the show itself: authentic, unforced, and driven by genuine curiosity about American workers rather than artificial goals or marketing considerations. When Rowe finally realized what they had accomplished, it served as a testament to both the show's longevity and the universal nature of dirty work across the country. The fact that dirty jobs could be found in every single state also reinforced one of the show's central messages: that essential, unglamorous work is being done everywhere by people who deserve recognition and respect for keeping society functioning, regardless of geography or local economic conditions. Fact 15. Skull cleaner butchered in editing. One of the most dramatic examples of how network censors could completely transform a Dirty Jobs episode happened with the skull cleaning segment which was edited so heavily that Mike Rowe said the final version bore almost no resemblance to what they actually filmed. The episode featured Rowe working with Skulls Unlimited, a company that processes raw animal remains and turns them into clean skulls for museums, educational displays, artistic projects, and scientific study. The original footage apparently contained extensive sequences showing the detailed process of how animal skulls are cleaned, prepared, and transformed from their natural state into the pristine specimens that end up in classrooms and research facilities. This work involves removing flesh, cleaning bones, and using various chemical and biological processes to achieve the final polished results that most people see in museums without ever thinking about how they were prepared. However, the graphic nature of the skull preparation process proved too intense for Discovery Channel's Standards and Practices Department. The network decided that significant portions of the footage were too disturbing for general television audiences, forcing editors to remove large segments that showed the more detailed aspects of the cleaning process. The editing process was so extensive that it fundamentally changed the character and flow of the episode. Rowe described the final aired version by comparing it to The Sound of Music with the songs edited out, suggesting that the most essential and interesting parts of the segment had been removed, leaving behind something that no longer effectively told the story of what the work actually involved. This heavy editing created a version that satisfied network censors but left viewers with an incomplete understanding of what skull cleaning actually entails. The comparison to the famous musical without its songs perfectly captured how the edited episode had been stripped of its most defining elements, turning what should have been an informative look at specialized work into something much less meaningful.